Alright, so we are going to make delicious shrimp sandwiches today. And our honey got us some delicious jumbo raw shrimps, wild caught in shell. When they're in the shell, and the guy said to don't rinse them off because it'll rinse off some of the flavor. Well, here's the deal. First I peeled them. This is where the flavor is. These are basically the bones. Pretend it's like a chicken bone. You've got your bones on the outside. So you peel off all the shrimps, shells, and their little leggies. See the little leggies? All this is the flavor. So I tend to use this in some oil first in the pan. Hit it with a little bit of garlic. Maybe just some seasoning, some paprika probably. Maybe a little dill, also, you know, just some basic seasoning, salt and pepper, just a tiny bit of salt, not too much. And then after maybe 3 or 4 minutes of doing the shells like that, I will add broth and or milk, or just milk. Like right now I don't think I have any broth, so I think I'm just going to do milk. But if you put some water first, first do the shells with a little bit of oil, get them like, just kind of saute them a little, get them a little baby sear, basically. Then you want to add a little bit of liquid. You could add water if you don't have any stock, and you could actually make a shrimp stock from these shells. This is probably, what did he give me, about 10 big shrimps. We're going to make some shrimp sandwiches with these. We love them. It's kind of a copy of a recipe we experienced at a Cheesecake Factory once. It was a shrimp sandwich. And so we're going to do this. He got me these peppers. These are kind of like Baby Bells, but they're a little bit spicier. They look like this. I can't remember the name of them. He didn't know the name of it either. I'm not going to look it up right now. But it looks like this. Looks like it's going to kill you, but it's not. It's got a little heat. If you want a little more heat, obviously, put the little seeds in there. So I'm going to be marinating these, but what I wanted to show you is I didn't rinse these first, okay? So I left all the flavor with the shells, peeled the shells. Then I very, very cleaned these. These did get rinsed. What I do is I don't bother rinsing them until after I devein them. And the way I do it is I start from the fat end with my knife. Obviously I have one hand here, so I hold this in my hand and I go from the fat end. And I go to right about there. Then I flip it over, put it on the board, and I do that last part placed on the board, because these are kind of squidgy. If you've ever held shrimps and tried to cut them in your hand to split them open to devein them. Deveining them is taking out the poop vein. A lot of people don't care about that. I do. Organic poop is still poop. These are wild caught, so I'm calling them organic. It's all organic, by the way. So we deveined them meticulously, and then we rinsed them to get all the little poop residue off. Not tasty thing. My honey even sprung for the organic cilantro. That's going to get chopped up in our sauce later. A little bit will go in the pan. So here is step 1, and I just want to go ahead and let her roll. And by the way, I just did a cheese sandwich on this a little earlier, so that's just a little bit of cheese. It's not dirty, those of you that are germaphobes. You know about a little bit of butter and cheese is not going to hurt this recipe in any way. So I'm going to do some butter. It's very good. This is salted butter, actually. Don't care that much right now. I am going to put a little bit of oil. This oil is a high heat oil. This oil is awesome. It's an culinary algae oil. How awesome is that? I got this sucker at Grocery Outlet, brand new of course, for $3.99. It's huge. 16.9 ounces. This would go for at least double that, $9.99 in a more expensive store. This is not what's inside of here. I just keep reusing this bottle because it's a great bottle. You need a nice dark bottle for high quality olive oil. The olive oil that's in here is an organic cold press. I just want a little bit of that. Don't need a ton. So this is kind of like, you know, I'm roux-ing it right now. I'm gonna flavor my roux first. Roux meaning I'm gonna add at some point something thickening slightly. Actually, I'm not gonna do a roux with this one because I'm not gonna make anything thick. But essentially what I'm gonna be making here is what I like to call a bisque. It's kind of a bisque. It's gonna be like a creamy, it's not gonna be thick, but it's gonna be a creamy, like milky, garlic, shrimpy, little bit of paprika kind of flavored thing. Now the shrimps cook very fast. And it's not going to hurt them if they're out for about 30 minutes to an hour before you cook them. They're going to cook up even quicker and more evenly, rather than having some parts cooked a little more firmly and some not. So especially for a sandwich, when I'm actually, these are going to get chopped up into little pieces anyway. So the deveining was, you know, like I said, try not to eat poop. Yes, it won't kill you if you have some poop, but that's where most of the toxicity is also. And we got the time to baby this, so why not? So we've got some shrimp shells getting kind of lovely. Starting to smell a little shrimpy in here. I'm going to hit it with some of these. Now keep in mind the shells are going to be removed. And all the little legs. It won't hurt you if you eat legs. It won't hurt you if you eat tails. In fact, it won't hurt you if you eat the whole shell. But the shell itself is kind of more of a big, harder piece. Not as fun to eat. But the tails, where's one of my tails? The tails always have a little bit of meat in them. There's a little bit of meat in there still. And they're kind of crunchy. So they're yummy. So I like the tails. So I'm just kind of setting things up to add a lot of flavor to begin with. And then we'll tone it down with some water, milk, etc. The water will be to make a broth because I don't... Usually I'll use whatever broth I have, not a beef broth, that I'll use. Quite frequently I'll use a chicken broth. I like to buy no sodium or low sodium chicken broth to cook with because you want to control your own sodium content. If you buy it with sodium, and I know people do, and the people that use bouillons all the time, they're used to using them, they know how much to use, but when I was in school, cooking school, they taught us, one of the first things they taught us was don't use bouillons, because they're really salty. It's hard to gauge your salt, and usually you add salt in layers. If you're cooking something that's going to take some time, it will reduce, making it saltier, so you have to keep all those things in mind. It's a lot easier if you just start with things that have little or no salt. So my butter here is salted, so I'm keeping that in mind. I just don't have any unsalted butter right now. And the salty butter is not super salty. Anyway, enough about salt. Well, speaking of salt, let's just show you. I only use pink salt. This is not the original container. Here, I'll show you the salt I use. Any pink salt, probably better than none, but try to make sure that it actually is, actually has some markings like these, like non-GMO type thing. Okay, so this is natural Himalayan pink salt, and this particular one is unrefined. That's what pink salt, the whole point of pink salt is they didn't refine it. Refining it meaning bleaching it, heating it, and chemically treating it. Your white salt is bleached, heated, stripped of minerals, and treated. So it's bleached, heated, stripped, and treated. So this is pink salt. It's free from added chemicals, additives, anti-caking agents, used in place of table salt. I use it for everything I use for salt is all pink. I don't use any other salt ever. There's Dead Sea salt is good too. Any sea salt is probably not that bad, but this is just the best, and it's really inexpensive. So anti-caking, there's chemicals they add in these so that they don't stick, so they're nice and loose. So your pink salt's going to be more clumpy. So literally every single time I go to use it, and I love this, I reuse this container, I go like this. With it closed, shake it really good, and then it'll be loose. for use. That rhymed. Okay, so there's our pink salt spiel. And we need a clean spoon here. Oldie but a goodie. Burned. Look at that sucker. That is still my favorite. So you got a little stick here. That is great. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't want to burn it though. Doing this with one hand. This is funny.